Good morning, everybody. Good morning and happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. So I was doing a little bit of this just now. I can see I've got a little bit too much going on here. I need to change those out. Doing a little bit of decorating in the 2 minutes I had before I came on to see you all. Good morning. Not one of our usual days, but we have got to finish our chapters on pennies, right? On penny rugs for the moment. And I will not be on tomorrow for coffee time because we are traveling this weekend. So another one of those crazy, festive, busy weekends in a hotel where I know from last year that it does not have good service at all. I'm already worrying about that with the kids, not having service on phones and computers and stuff just for a little downtime. We'll see. Robin, great to see you. Snowy greetings in Wisconsin here too. Wonder if I can show you the snow. Let me see if I can show you the snow out the window. Oh, you're not getting a very good view. Oh, it's so snowy out there too. Oh well. Now I did a baddie. Now I did a baddie. On a different day, maybe you will be able to see the snow. There we go. Let's get the little, there we go. Happy snowy times in Wisconsin, Robin. Oh, Mom, you're there too. Snowy in Granby. We are headed up there later. Aileen, it has snowed here in Toronto, but not much. Usually Wisconsin has us beat. Yeah. Oh, all checking in on this snow. I didn't know that it was supposed to be snowy, and we got it, and it's so pretty. Just what I was asking for yesterday, really. Just like that little kind of a dusting that made everything pretty, but not really sticking onto the road, which is nice. The kids went off to school, same as always. It is pretty. Karen, great to see you. Good morning. Good to see you. Linda, good morning. Sets the mood. There we go. Got frosting. Frosting on the cake. That's it. Heather, great to see you. Heather, I so wanted to see you today. We'll plan something in the near future today. I forgot I had my appointment with the doctor earlier this morning, and that eats up the whole morning, but it's a good thing. Lisa, great to see you. Making it live today. Dave, happy Thursday. Great to see you. And Courtney, good morning. Cindy, good morning. Beverly, hello. Beverly, you posted some beautiful penny rugs in the group, right? If you are not in our group already, it's a Facebook group if you're on Facebook called Rug Cooking and Punch Needle Club. And we have been going crazy talking about pennies lately, penny rugs. I was just talking to the therapist about penny rugs. He said, what did he say? He said something so old-timey and funny, like, not isn't that a hoot, but he said something like, I'll be darned, or something like that when I showed him a picture of what the penny rugs look like. It was funny. It was one of those you don't hear very often. So I want to jump back. It's Sherry. Good to see you from Paris, Tennessee. Great to see you. I need to speak to you. We need to speak. I forgot to write you this morning because it brought me right up to the coffee time that therapist. I've only had him for 3 weeks, so I'm not quite in the habit yet, even though it's on the calendar, of thinking about Thursday morning as a day that I'm kind of locked up. Carol, I thought I saw you. Carol, there you are. I got your message and you had some great ideas. Thank you so much. You had a really solid idea. We were talking about the thing of getting people started as teachers, getting that going, figuring out how to help with that, how to get that kind of mounted. It is a big project, so I am thinking about how to do it in an official way without doing certifications, because that's not really where my head is at in terms of getting it going for 2022, but we'll figure it out together. Well, it's a work in progress, and I'm open to conversations about it, but I really am serious and really looking forward to having people out there who are can use the brand for sort of getting some steam going, and maybe doing like standardized kits or stuff. We'll figure it out. I'll figure out how to make something the same, so part of it is standardized, without doing something where you're asking people for crazy amounts of money to certify them, because that is not my thing. So I'm trying to figure that out. And when I thought about it, because I had said on an earlier show, I've been certified for quite a few things, and the only thing I used was the certification to be a tour guide. But when I thought about it, I didn't even use that, because they made us fly out to San Francisco to be certified as international tour guides and stay for about 3 weeks. It was like just over 3 weeks. It was a huge expense. Had to quit the current job to do it, because that was a crazy amount of time off. And I remember the only reason I got into being a tour guide was because I had a lucky break with having just sent my resume cold without the help of the certification company to a company called Caravan, who I ended up working for years and years. And I ended up being their trainer on most of the US tours, at least. And I was a big player with them for a long time. But I just happened to send them a resume, and they happened to call because the girl who was running the tour was on Cape Cod with her group, lost her voice, and I was able to, because of being like geographically close, I hopped on the tour, and without any prior kind of training at all, I had enough history in my head from that area, having graduated from high school out there and lived out there, to get through it. So when I thought about it, I thought I didn't even use that expensive and ridiculous and frustrating certification. But we will figure it out. We'll figure out how to make this work. And Sherry, we'll talk in the meantime and get you going on something. But it's a worthy project, getting people feeling confident to get out there and teach and answer some questions about that. And if you would like to do it in conjunction with the Ribbon Candy Hooking brand, that's great. That's great for business. It's great to get your foot in the door, because as I said, I'm getting a bit more asks than I can handle at this moment. So it would be great to have people who I know are solid and good out there doing the same kind of philosophy of teaching, at least. And with your own unique spin on it, of course. I would hate if it didn't have your own unique spin on it. Doreen, good to see you. Oh, thank you so much. This is just laziness. Thank you so much, though. It's all colored so nice. My sister did such a nice job on it. I can't make it as pretty as she made it, styling it, but I'm going to be with her again this weekend, so maybe she can do some work with me. Hopeless cause with beauty. Heather said, I had freezer paper in my purse to give you. Oh, dangy. Well, hopefully next week. See how busy you are next week. I'll be around again. Crystal, great to see you. A snow day there. Does that mean little Vera's at home? Oh, just off the slopes. Oh, in the backyard. Sledding track in the backyard. How perfect. Tara, you made it. Good to see you. I'm so glad you're there. Beverly says, I really want to teach her no classroom classes or products. Yeah, I think it's just widespread right now. And the only reason I think people have been writing is because they're seeing, I did agree to do a couple of talks at libraries and like a demonstration somewhere. And then the neighboring people are seeing these things pop up in the kind of prospectus materials. I'll give you all this info if you're local, right after Christmas when my head's straight. But I think other people saw it from other places and kind of like that predatory, ooh, where did they get this person from? This is not somebody that we know. Getting that kind of tree going where they are seeing this one's and then it kind of multiplies, right? And they're thinking, oh, this person hasn't taught here before. I would also like this person because you're nearby. I would like to pull my resources from your catalog, kind of a thing. It's getting a little bit out of control. So it will be great having other teachers out there, because the main thing is to get people going on rug hooking and rug making, just rug making, right? It would be great to get a course going, teaching rug hooking, a little bit of punch, a little bit of penny, some simple lamb's tongues like this, right? Latch, can't put latch down. And have you heard of the form, I'm sure you have, called Rya, R-Y-A. There's one person who, coffee, Charette or Charette. I like to say Charette because I like to say holy Charette, but it's actually Charette. All of these forms that are so simple to do with slightly different tools. But Rya is interesting because you're using a needle on a latch hook backing, and you're using something like there's two different size gauges that you can use, but something like a flat wooden ruler to stitch around between the latch hook loops around the ruler, and then you pull the ruler out like old time rug hooking, clipped, and then you're just cutting it, and it creates a pile that looks like latch, but it's a different knot, right? So it's knotted with a needle instead of pulled with a latch hook. So Rya is very cool too, and it really hit its peak in the mid-century through the 1970s. It's a hard one to track. It's a very, very cool one. But another one of these forms that we should talk about more in the new year when we get some traction, all of these related forms that you can couple with traditional rug hooking, right? There's all kinds of offshoots. The other one that sometimes gets mentioned, I wish I had my gadget here and I don't even know where it is Smyrna, right? It's sometimes called Smyrna, but it's actually latch. It's just latch, but they were, for a while, some companies were using the phrase Smyrna, and they put out a Smyrna cutter, S-M-Y, right? S-M-Y-R-A. They put out a Smyrna cutter, which looks like a little round noisemaker, right? Like an old-time noisemaker for 4th of July, for New Year's Eve. I have it, I just don't know where it is. But you wind it, you put your yarn in and you wind it, and there's a custom razor inside that would be very hard to replace if you use this exclusively, right? And your blades wore down. It's a very unusual blade. but you put it in and it cuts small latch size pre-cut pieces. So this whole moment of pre-cut, right, talking about different rug forms, that whole moment of pre-cut threw some people for a loop and got them disinterested, or they felt disenfranchised from rug hooking, because you were really at that point doing Smyrna, otherwise known as latch, and you were buying what was called a rug hooking kit, and they were sending you a kit with a latch hook instead of a rug hook with a bunch of pre-cut pieces, and that threw a lot of people for a loop and killed it for people right in the middle of the century. So these are all things we should talk about more, because these forms are all wonderful. It's just more textile art, more mediums to use to do this form of textile art, right? So this is all going to be interesting conversation. Oh, I missed a lot. Tad, great to see you. I need to answer you. December has been crazy, but I'm coming out. I really am coming out of it. I'm getting there with the book. It's been a lot lately. It's been a lot. Beverly said, Beverly says, I did raya cloth just to try it. Took a while to do. Yeah, the thing about the raya is that, when you look at it and you shop it, they really want you using a specific cloth. And I have to say, you can use other cloths. You don't have to use that cloth. It is being really promoted by one person who is all, the kind of the Amy Oxford of it at this moment, with no competition at all. But you can go rogue, like Dave style in Toronto, and use a dishcloth or something like that. It really depends. We'll talk about raya as a completely different subject in the future, because it is cool. And essentially, it looks like latch with a needle instead of a hook, but same backing, or not the same backing. It could be the same backing. There's lots of possibilities for how to get started with it. So these are all things we need to talk about. Just like our pennies took us on a huge detour, all of these different categories of rug making, they're all going to take us down a rabbit hole, because they're all great. They all have historic value and merit and pedigree. None of them are flash in the pansies, right? These are all nice forms that we should look at individually. And Heather says, sounds interesting, like locker hooking. Yeah, like locker hooking, absolutely. Locker hooking for me, I like locker hooking. I like the look of it. I feel the most successful images typically are the geometrics, because with locker hooking, you are using that latch background, so that big, very stiff, rigid background. And you are, instead of using a hook, you're using that long crochet needle that has an eye, not at the hook end, but at the tail end. There's a giant eye that you run your yarn through, right, or your fabric through, right? Using fabric is one of the great benefits of being able to locker hook, using all your scrap quilt materials and things. And you're literally running through the backing, right, the gauge, with the hook, right, and it's trailing underneath the loops. Essentially, when you get your loops in place, it's trailing a tail that locks the loops above the surface of your backing, if that makes sense. So they'll never come through, because there's one tail that came through from the eye of the needle that locked them all in place, and they're all stuck above. So it's a cool and neat looking form, another one that we'll talk about in the near future. But it's limited in the way that it can look, right? So with locker hooking, you couldn't say, well, I might want this one clipped. It doesn't work like that, right? It only works one way. You get a very low pile sort of loop, right? It looks more like a knot than a loop, because it's wound around the tail that's running under it. So very low pile. And for that reason, with the low pile, it can look like a large needle point. And it does look pixelated, right? There's no getting around that. You can't add extra into it, like with latch. When you're doing a latch piece and you think it looks too pixelated, and you're going kind of top to bottom, you latch top to bottom, and you're thinking of each. I'm going to stop and transition in a minute. But if this is one window pane of your latch hook backing, you have the top, bottom, side to side, so north, south, east, and west. And let's say you're a person who always latches your fabric onto the north, right, the top rung. Then you've got all of these, out of the squares, you've got one little stitch, one latch pull through on the top of each square, right over the whole surface of your canvas. But if you look at it and you say, oh man, that looks so pixelated, like I want to add more color, I want to add more depth, I want to add more texture and interest, what you can do is a technique that I disgustingly enough call looking for ticks on the dog, where you go through the pile of the latch, right? And you find all these, you're not empty spaces, because you've got one latch strand latch hooked into each square, but you've got 3 other sides to the square, right? So sometimes I go through the pile like this, like I'm looking for a tick on the dog, right? That's the only thing that makes me think of that. And then I'll say, I feel like I want more yellow here. I didn't put enough yellow. You can latch into one of the other three corners, right? The other three sides, the south, the east, and the west. You can latch a yellow or a couple yellows. It'll make it more dense right there, but it's not going to be noticeable with a high pile rug like a latch rug. So some of the other forms of rugs, the point is, lend themselves to a lot of rejigging during the process. You look at it and you step back and you think, not quite right. Color's wrong. I need a little bit more of this here or there. Locker isn't one of those. You're locked in. And it is, for me, it's one of the more limiting forms, but it's relatively fast, and its great merit is that you can use strips of fabric, right? That you have that you didn't know what to do with, or sort of bias tape widths of fabric. But you could also use those same widths to do a crocheted rug or an Amish toothbrush rug. We'll talk about all this. There's much to say about all of these forms, but they are all wonderful. I mean, they really are. They are all fun. Robin says, there is Arya known as weaving. Interesting. See, now this is another conversation we have to have, because finishing up this book on different rag forms that are not woven, right? That are forms that are not woven. It was very hard making the selection of choosing 15 forms for the book that are not woven. It was very hard to leave out some of the wovens, because some of the simple wovens, like Beverly, I know that you do the wagon wheel, and you can do it on like a hula hoop or anything that's round. That's a fun form. That's a fun, funny, nostalgic kind of form, isn't it? And it was hard to leave some of those out, but I thought I've got to narrow it down by some kind of criteria. Otherwise, it's going to be an utter pig's breakfast. So we need to talk about this in the future, because I know a lot of us also sort of moonlight with spinning and different forms of fiber art. And I think it would be a good thing also in 2022 if we dabbled a little in some of the woven forms and doing very simple weaving on the kinds of boards and looms that you can make at home. No new equipment, no big loom. We're not talking about Scandinavian, looms that are bigger than the room, and you spend half your time underneath them looking for problems and fixing the problems. Just very simple things. It could be a fun thing for us to kind of take a little side trip into that part of rug making, because that is the majority of rug making, is working on a loom. We are in the very small minority working with tools like hooks, latches, punches, sewing needles, right? We are in the minority. That whole loom world, if we open that up, it's going to keep us busy for a decade. So, and we can kind of mix and mingle and intersperse different conversations. It'll be a lot of fun for us coming up. A lot of fun. Raya, yep, Raya. Oh, okay, Robin. There's also a form known as Raya with weaving. Interesting. Barbara says, I'm running behind like a cow's tail, but I made it. Better late than never. That's right, Barbara. You're having a heat wave in northern Minnesota, 28 degrees. Yikes. I think we're about the same with you today. We're just a hair above, just a hair. Aileen says, standard presentation with demo kit might be an option. Talking about the possibility of teaching. I was thinking that too. I want to be able to put out for people who want to teach and don't have the materials to put the kits together for starters. It would be a thing that I could help with putting out standard kits with either a hook or a punch for not much money, right? Almost like an Avon thing. I hate to think of pyramid stuff like that, but it makes sense, the supply and demand thing, because I do produce my kits, I think, quite a bit less than other companies typically and traditionally do. And for teachers, we could work on an even better price getting things out, right? So that you have the things to start with and you know that you're confident that you have everything that you need. This is a big conversation that we really should have. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm not thinking of it in a negative light. I'm thinking of it as a lot of fun, but I need to work through it in my head too. At least for 24 hours without being interrupted. When would that be, right? With kids running around, when would that be? Aileen and Robin, not. Yep, I know the autocorrect is aggravating. Not, yep. Crystal says, thanks, Crystal. Heather says, Crystal, I meant, yep. And my mom's tooting her horn. She's my biggest fan for sure. And Jocelyn too. That's what you're looking for, Sherry. Okay, good to know. Okay, good. Yeah, that's what, I'm gonna, before I start the commentary, and I know I need to start, I have to say I was so touched last night when I went into Jocelyn's room, because remember the night before she was recording the video for me that I have uploaded as private. So I'm going to work on that today and see if we want to make that public. I want to be sure that those stockings kits get to everybody that we sent them to, and those are all on the way. But I was so touched because it was bedtime and I went into her room late, and she was sitting, as I found her many times, but I thought she was kind of off it. She was sitting at the bottom of her bunk bed under the covers with her earphones on, and she was listening to the CD that I recorded years ago when I did some cabaret singing, and I was into that back in the day. And she was listening to some of the old jazz songs that I recorded like 15 years ago, particularly The Waters of March, if you know that song. It's a very tricky song. And yeah, she knows all the words to all of them. And I thought, oh my God, she could be listening to anything, something much cooler than old time jazz songs, right? And she's sitting there like almost night after night. She knows the words to all of my songs. She wants to start singing duets together. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'll take whatever she's going to give me. I'll take that little thing. Lynette, great to see you. Voy, V-O-Y. I'm going to have to figure that one out. Crystal says, Helen and Heather. I hope you're laughing. So let's penny it up. And where we left off yesterday, this colossal book by Janice Sonnen, Sonnen. She does such a killer job, Lisa. And we left off where she was starting to talk about specific penny rug artists, people who sort of specialize in this. And I want to repeat, you can use wonderful wools like she's showing here. We had a little bit of this conversation yesterday. We talked, if you missed yesterday, you must watch it, because we were brainstorming hugely yesterday, and people were talking about backings that you could use to make penny rugs, different materials. It was a very specific conversation, and it went wild with good information. So if you're interested at all, I do too, Tara. She is just such a good girl. Then you should watch back, because it's too much good information to repeat the next day. But with these rugs, the penny artist rugs, people who work specifically in penny rug as a medium, they really are using felt, right? They're not using this kind of wool. The examples that we're seeing, like the ones we looked at yesterday, are felt, right? Look, something like this. This is felt too. This is just very old felt, very old felt. And this is more what I would call a lamb's tongue rug, right? Because it's all the same thing over and over, the one over my shoulder here. We've looked at that a few times. Penny rug is a little different because I am a bit of a stickler with this, and I do feel like there should be some element of a penny in it, like the old oversized Civil War era penny. And then, she's showing you a gallery, and galleries are extremely helpful with inspiration. So let me share this gallery and look at some of these ways that people have put pennies together in a traditional but kind of unusual way. For example, this one is kind of a trivet shape, right? And there is no backing. So when we say, what kind of backing do you use for a penny rug? Well, I guess the first question is, do you want to use backing? Let me try to bring you into focus here. Not really, huh? But you see what I mean. This is a real simple photo. There we go. And then we've got, let's see, stuff like this, right? And you see they've done two different penny color combinations. So they've done light with a dark little center, little dot, and then dark with a red center. And then the middle is quilted with it's got a quilted pattern going with a sewing needle, just pulling it through, making it look like a small quilted element right inside here. And then it's moving to stuff like this that does not have the penny element, but still we see a lot of what I would call just straight wool applique in penny rug books. And I will go along with it, for all intents and purposes. I guess it's the same thing. We're just not using penny. So this to me is more of a wool applique example. What a great idea. Your house, basic silhouette, not much detail, right? Doesn't have to be old, doesn't have to be primitive. Any house would look great like this. You have to create that kind of whimsical background with trees, even if you live in the center of a city and you're attached on both sides. It just, that standalone look is really powerful as a design. This is beautiful too. This is really different. Not a penny, but little ship on the sea, and you see the very, very basic stitches all in the background, right, to make the little stars, or splashes, whatever your interpretation is. I love the water in this. I love the boat being buried in the water. I love the rope, the actual rope trim, right around the border. It looks like there's something nice here. What does it say? A story rug by Sandy Painter. A story rug often told stories to the next generation to learn of the family's heritage. This rug is based on 2 scriptures in the Bible, Job and Psalm. Morning stars sang together. He stilled the storm to a whisper. Oh, that is quite beautiful, isn't it? I love the way the waves are like fingertips here, one going in one direction, the other kind of in the other. It's interesting, isn't it? But that rope border really seals the deal. Really interesting. I bet this has got you going again, looking at these. They're so different. I don't want to show you everything because, it's a book. And yeah, if you want the book, you should definitely get the book and support the writer. But there are lots of different sort of configurations. Choosing your background and then dropping your pennies in, right? From very, very multicolored pennies to very sort of somber colored pennies, old-time sad colored pennies, right? Browns and khakis. So she gives a lot of ideas for patterns, diamond overlaying, using large and small in conjunction, and sometimes using in the center, these are just singles, right? They've stacked here, there's 2 sort of graduations, the large and the small, but in the center, they've just done the small. So this is a really fast rug. That is easily an afternoon project, even if you don't fancy yourself as a sewer. This one clearly, they have used wool, right? It could be over-dyed wool, but they've used like a soft plaid as the backing. This too. And they've added their lamb's tongues, right? That's a nice little runner. So lots of ideas with that. And then stuff like this. This is like almost a direct interpretation. It probably is of an historic example. So very simple with colors, right? What really matters is the penny on top, what color the penny on top is. And I was thinking, I woke up unfortunately at 1 last night, not even 3, but 1. And I started thinking about penny rugs, could be worse, right? And I was thinking about the whole thing that we were talking about a while ago, about if you are interested in, like, for example, I'm not interested particularly in astrology, but I find it interesting, and I find the night sky interesting. So the idea of using your constellation for your birth month in a penny rug and having all the other pennies around it, right? But it would be very hard for your eye to pick out the constellation unless you knew that it was embedded in the design, right? So for example, on the top of your constellation, mine is Pisces, maybe there are all blues, right? And the rest of it is kind of mixed colors. Once I know that I'm looking for blues, there's my constellation for the month of February, right? So something like that could be really interesting. My mom and I were brainstorming a week or so ago, and we were also thinking about the idea of, for a penny rug, if you were trying to think up a penny rug design and you didn't want to do something that was very traditional, and you didn't want to, for example, pull from a quilt design, and you were thinking, what kind of order could I put circles together in a way that it was quirky, meaningful, interesting to me? And we were saying, what about doing something like, Google Maps, right? We always come back to Google Maps, like a neighborhood, right? Or your house. If you were to look at Google Maps from your house, you would have a square that you can make up with circles, but then all of the trees and bushes in your yard would be bigger or larger circles. You could do like a centerpiece with lots of lamb's tongues around it that was like your home, the shape that it is, however it rambles, and then all of the pennies, which would be super irregular, would be where all the bushes and trees are, almost like an architectural drawing of your house. Wouldn't that be cool? That could be something, right? So, and of course you could play with that and make the house not pennies, just say like the family name and the year, and then have all the pennies be the bushes and trees. I thought that was a really nice idea too. So there are quite a few projects in this house. And I'm trying to get context here because she's moving from, at the end of the book, she begins moving between mediums, which is my favorite. So she's talking about the relationship between hooked rugs and wool applique. Thanks, Sherry. So, for example, she's showing you this image as an idea for a penny rug, right? A wool applique with lamb's tongues and penny tabs. And then she's showing it to you as an idea for a hooked rug, right? 4 and 20 blackbirds baked in a pie. And she does this toward the end of the book quite a bit. And here's another example of that. the penny, right, with the dark background. Thanks, Heather. And then the sheep, it's the same design. What about a snowflake? Ooh, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. You know, if you're ever looking for snowflake designs, remember that the guy whose last name was Bentley from Woodstock, Vermont, he was the first person. He was very, they called him in his day, which was the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century, very odd and different. And it seems in retrospect like he was probably autistic. And he was the first person to photograph snowflakes and to prove for sure that each one was different and unique. And I think Dover, our friends Dover, put out a book of snowflakes that he photographed. And that would be a great source, also online. I'm sure they're there now. But Bentley's photographs of snowflakes would be a great design because he called them, I know he did this in bingo once, he called them something like crystal miracles or something like that. Something so beautiful. He spoke in such a lyrical way about snowflakes. But that would be a great idea too. What a great idea. What a great idea. So, yeah, so lots of this at the end of the book. Lots of designs that you could do either as wool applique / penny rugs or rug hooking designs. And I think that's a very nice crossover that they're giving us because, sure, you know, you can hook pennies too. Right? You see this little penny here? Little penny here. So why not? There's lots of crossover. You could put straight pennies onto a hooked backing too. Like we were saying yesterday, you could take a rug that has a lot of damage, like a geometric, and add pennies to it to hide where there's holes and damage. So yeah, lots of cool stuff. So I'm going to wrap it up with this book, and let's move on to the other because, yeah, there's a lot. The gallery is just beautiful. You know, she's showing pillows and mug rugs, and then she's showing three-dimensional stuff like this. Little birds with the penny rug under it. And just, I mean, these are pattern pieces that you don't really need to trace, right? Circles and a couple of little tabs. And then, you know, at the end, they also give pattern templates to use your freezer paper with, right? For the different kinds of the scallop and the diamond and the different kinds of matte backings that she gave us, and then all this kind of stuff. So this is really, really a good book. Yeah, it's a good book. And there is the Civil War era penny here. This is probably Lady Liberty or something right here, something like that. Maybe Columbia here. And then this is the example of a penny, right, in terms of size. So this book is wonderful. I'm going to put this aside for the moment. We can always return to it. It's on our library shelf. And let's look at this for a minute in case you were thinking about this one too. These are both available through Amazon, and the links should be in the description to this video. So penny rugs, and this is by Janet Carruth and Julie Hendrickson. Penny rugs, quilts, and more with felt and wool. So we started looking at this the other day because we were talking about the history, right, and the baskets, the penny baskets. This is the one that really kills me. And then these really large quilt-inspired penny rugs, like a kaleidoscope, isn't it? A proper kaleidoscope. And this does a lot. This book is very different. So she starts with the history. She does a lot of this kind of photography information, very helpful. Felting wool, right? Crystal, you're about to get cranking with this. She's talking about like some technical aspects of doing it more from scratch, right? And then she immediately starts showing us some really beautiful examples of, I wouldn't call these penny rugs personally, but you see that there are elements of wool applique that have some crossover interest for us for sure. So these are pincushion designs. It's all going to be very different. Ooh, I think we looked at this already, the grapes. Yeah, we looked at that grape trivet. Let's see what else she's got for us. Copper Flowers penny rug. Oh, now that is nice. That is nice. Look at that. That's a bit of a combo now. She's got the pennies for the border. She's got the pennies within. This is almost like a Penn Dutch design, right? And then she's got the leaves. So she's not deviating hugely. I think there might even be some buttons in the center. But that's a super, what does she say about that? Copper Flowers penny rug by Teresa Miller. Do you have a room that needs a little color to pull several motifs together? Or does the room need a splash of pow to bring all the elements together? Look no further. This copper flowers penny rug is the answer. So she talks about her. And here it is on the little table with some kind of a nautical, I think, instrument right there. Nice, huh? It's larger than I thought. Very nice. It's nice how it kind of flippity flops off the edge of the table a little bit, right? That's smart. That's smart. You make it a little bit too big and then it overhangs, right? Gravity pulls it a little bit and does that nice kind of bell shape coming down. This is a nice example too because fleece came up yesterday in our conversation. She's using fleece as a backing here. And again, not a straight penny rug, but a wool applique. Look how nice it is when those flower petals break the border. And all the yellow is fleece. The black and white looks like quilt fabric, and the felt, the flowers are felt in the basket, but the yellow is fleece. So if that's your thing, then that's going to be good. Remember all the patterned fleece that's out there too. Interesting. This is another nice example. Yellow bird pillow. She's got an applique bird. It's almost like a Magdalena E.B. Briner bird with the, you know how Magdalena's signature was the cherry in the bird's beak. This is just like she's got some kind of latch or tufting fringe, right? And she's just got the one character on the backing, but she seems to have machine stitched the bottom to sort of be the ground or the leaves, right? That's neat, isn't it? That's so simple. Man, if you needed to get stuff ready for a fair or donate or a raffle or a craft thing or a church thing, something like that would be so easy to produce quite a lot of. This is nice. This is the one that I used, this beautiful tree skirt I used for today's thumbnail. And there's the tree skirt in action. And then you see she actually put pennies on the tree, one of these little feather trees, right? I mean, isn't that great? And feathers on the, pennies on the mantle. So good, right? So good. I'm guessing that's spam. I'm not sure. Oh, it looks like it's definitely. I'm not sure what to do about that. If anybody wants to delete those, I don't know if it's going to create a different problem. Hopefully not. Okay, so here are some newer examples of kind of combos. This is a really nice pattern. Let's look at this. I hope we're still good and we're still live and all that with that kind of interference. So this is a nice penny rug with the traditional lamb tongues around the edge, but see how they've done the pennies next to each other rather than on top of each other. Yes, please. Might as well, Heather, right? It's weird that it's happened with two people's accounts, but that's all right. We'll figure it out. And this is it done up, right? Because I think that's the, oh, maybe that's a close-up of it in the drawing for it, and then draped over a chair. And now this one is another, this is kind of a more modern interpretation of the penny basket. The entire basket is made from little pennies. And you can see there's like some holly and a poinsettia in the baskets, alternating. The lamb's tongue on the edges. It's, you know, it's nice to put lamb's tongue on 2 edges, but this is it on 4 edges. It's also nice, right? All basket stitch. So that's really cool. Thank you. That might help. I love the pennies on the tree too, Mom. That is very cool. Now, more cool stuff. This book is a little bit all over the place, and that is one of the things I like about it. In this case, they're doing what looks like an 8-stranded braided rug right here with lamb's tongues all around. Well, that's a great idea to finish. You often see hooked rugs finished with braiding. You rarely see braiding finished with anything else. This is braiding finished with lamb's tongues, so wool applique lamb's tongues. And then small pieces like this, they're playing with just tiny, tiny pieces in frames. It's a very cool book. They've got the cat in here too, which is super cute. Made from felt, I guess. That's a bit of a deviation, the vintage cat, for the penny rug book. But it's just another cool project. And then the last project they give is a coverlet, a wool challis coverlet, with a combo of animals, mostly birds, lots of baskets. I'm going to, well, I'll show it right side up. That's cool, huh? I'm reading the comments too. So just a large, large piece here. And then she's going to get into patterns. So the rest of this book will be patterns for the things that we just talked about. Tons and tons and tons of patterns for all these projects. So she's not going to drop you on your head at all. Even the cat is in there. So this is a book with most of the information up front, and it is very little of it is actually about penny rugs, but it is a great book showing you lots of neat designs for wool applique. And I just wanted to say, just in case you're interested, you can always log off if you're not, but I just wanted to remind you, I meant to do this yesterday, about how to do the blanket stitch for the pennies. So let me do that on the camera real quick in case you're interested and you're thinking, I just forgot it and I can't figure it out by looking at a video. Let me see if I can help. It might not, sometimes it just helps seeing a different person do something, right? So I just want to remind you with these penny rugs, sometimes it's best, right, to not have your tail actively knotted, because once I put my stitch through, right through both little guys here, I'm going to just hold it with my finger over here, and I don't want to knot it like I said yesterday, because I'm afraid that if there's lots of knots there, if I ever want to press the piece, you're going to see the little dot of a knot. So when you've got your first stitch in, you're literally going to one spot over. You decide what the spot over is, right? And you're putting another stitch there. You're pulling it up, but then you want to catch this guy here, right? And here comes the tricky part. Can you see what's going on here? For the first stitch, right before it all falls down, I pull it like this, right? And then the first and second stitch are the most important. And then I come about equidistant away, but remember, you're not a machine, so it doesn't matter if it's exactly the same distance. I pull up, and then I'm going to, sorry, I keep moving off camera. I pull up, and then I'm just going right through here. Right, and I'm going to do that all the way around. My thread is already running out. Right, all the way around. And then when I'm done, I'm going to cut it here. My scissors aren't right here, and I'm not going to knot it, right? I tend to go like this to hide it so it's not stuck at the top. I just catch some little hairs there, some little fibers. I pull it down, I'll cut it, and then I'll just leave it like that. I have two little ends, but no knots, right? So that there's nothing for the iron to catch on if it wants to in the future. And it'll go all the way around like this, making these little stitches like this. So it is really the one stitch. It's that first stitch is tricky because you have to catch it twice, and the second stitch is the first time that you have to remind yourself, what am I hooking into? Well, the stitch before, right? It's the first time that comes up. What do I want to catch? The stitch before. And then everything is the same after that. So it's super easy. I mean, it's super, super easy to do that kind of blanket stitch. It's a bot, okay. Oh, the computer. So frustrating, huh? Oh, you're late to the party, Pat. That's okay. We've been pennying it up. We're about to end the party, but the video will be great. The last few days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we have really been full blast. Good, Aileen. It's super easy. But yeah, that first one is tricky. And once you get it, you get it. And when you run out in the middle of a penny, you come back up exactly the same way you came in before. So you're not like starting looping again. You're just coming up the middle by catching some bits of fiber, right? So it's stuck as a tail, and then you're coming right up into the last stitch and pulling it over, right? Because you have like their little squares on top. You have to catch it and pull it over to make that square shape like this, right? Your head figures it out, and then it clicks, calibrates, and once it's in there, it doesn't go away. It's just there. It takes a minute to click. And if you put it down for a day and you come back to it, if you're like me, you start again with, how the hell does this work? This makes no sense. How did I ever do this? But then you get it again and you start doing your little, motion. It happens. It's fast, and it's something you can do using no brain power. Lots of Hallmark movies happened during the making of these pennies. Oh, and you know what? Tara, I forgot. I Googled that Rhea Perlman Christmas choir. I'm going to watch that one tonight, I hope. I found when instead of going through the normal Hallmark channel, because I know a lot of you are also crazy Christmas movie watchers like me, I found a bunch of old ones from like the 80s, 90s, 2000s. I tapped into a whole sort of reservoir vault of older ones that featured, like the one I watched last night featured that guy from WKRP, you know, the DJ. He was kind of wild. He was the main character. Fun. It was fun. Whole different world opened up, and a perfect thing to do while you're doing your hooking or your pennying. So remember, I won't see you tomorrow. I won't be on tomorrow. I'm going to be away with the family. We're going to have a nice time in Concord, Mass. And I will see you on Monday, and we will pick up with something exciting. I might jump into the Rayas. I might go back to. I still haven't gotten my Atha. If we get that, I'm gonna look at the Atha, but. We'll do something lots of fun together. Remember, if you want to get Christmas crackers, get your orders in. I've got about, I think, 25 more, and that's with the extra ones that I bought since Erin finished the last batch. We've been going through them like crazy. They come with a Proddy tool, bunch of Proddy material, paper crown, and fortune-telling fish. How can you miss for $18, right? I mean, that's crazy. Fun thing to get in the mail, too. So all of those are shipping so far today. And if you want them, just remember, I won't be getting any more supplies after this wave. It's been a lot of It's been a crappery couple of weeks. I'll see you all on Monday. Have a great weekend. If you need me or you're thinking of anything, call me on Ribbon Candy. Write me on ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com, or check our Facebook page, which is Rug Cooking and Punch Needle Club. We will wind up next week planning our next bingo date and getting lots of nice things on the calendar for us. And Sherry, I will write you in just a second and we'll put something together. All right. Thank you, Aileen. We love Concord so much. So many nice antique stores there. I'll make some posts if I find any nice rugs, which I often do.